Hey everyone, welcome back to Lumber Capital Log Yard. I'm here with the boss today at Wagner's Muncie Yard to ask the manager a few questions. Before we begin, remember to like and subscribe and follow us on Instagram at lumbercapital07.
So my name is Chris Canfield. I am the log yard manager for the Muncie concentration yard. I've been at Wagner's, this will be my 20th year. So I've been here a while. I started out here as a picker operator. I worked in the log yard in Owego for about 8 years. I spent a year at the Davenport mill, and then I went on the road as a log buyer for 5.5 years. And right now, I guess in April, I will be here 3 years. So
3 years at the Muncie
yard.
So Em wrote me into being on camera again, and Chris is a very special person to Ironwood Acres. We work with Chris specifically on getting our logs moved and sold, and he is the person that facilitates all this. And when I say logs, I don't mean the logs that we mill at our little mill. That would be the hardwood grade logs that we sell, that our customers then are paid for their timber when we're harvesting. So I have a couple questions for Chris, and he's been at this for quite a while. He knows a lot more than I'll ever hope to know, and he's very knowledgeable in the industry, and somebody whose acumen I really have appreciated over the last several years. So my first question for Chris is, how many mills does Wagner own?
So Wagner technically owns 4 facilities. The Cayuta mill, the Owego mill, and the Nineveh mill. And then we also own a kiln / storage facility in Hancock, New York. It was a mill at one time. We don't saw there, and they will transfer lumber there to be dried, and then they'll store it there, and then it'll get trucked out. So technically we own 3 mills. The Owego mill is the biggest mill as far as sawing logs. The Cayuta mill is the biggest facility as far as lumber storage and kiln facilities. So, and then Nineveh is a green mill, and what we sell green goes out of that mill, and then we also transfer a fair amount of that to the kiln facilities. So technically 3 mills.
3 mills. Does the Nineveh mill cut longer logs? I was under the impression that some of the longer material went specifically for that mill.
They do have the ability to cut 14 and 16 foot logs, as does the Cayuta mill.
Okay.
We also work extremely close with Green Lumber, which is actually a Bailey mill who owns Wagner's. They can cut XL logs there. And so Cayuta, Nineveh, and Green. When they built back the Owego mill, they decided just to make it so they could do 8s, 10s, and 12s because of the added cost. Yep.
An opportunity to visit the Owego mill, and I know the amount of sawdust that is produced from our small lumber mill, and to be in a facility that is the size of a football field, and you could eat off the equipment or off the floor, was absolutely incredible. The facility moved so many logs per hour, the ground shook. I was shocked actually being in the facility. The whole place just rumbled with the amount of material moving. So my next question to Chris is, how many logs are milled per hour at the Owego mill. Now, Chris just said they only do 8s, 10s, and 12-foot logs there. And this is a very difficult question to ask or answer, in that a certain species can slow down the production rate of the mill.
Okay, so each log, depending on the size of it, will have a certain amount of board footage in it. So typically on the head rigs, all they're doing is basically making a big can. They're slabbing 4 sides and sending it onto the resaw. So the bigger the log, the slower the process is going to be. The smaller the log, the faster the process will be. I don't really know how many logs per minute go across it, but I know that they're sawing in roughly a 9-hour shift 140, 150,000 feet a day.
Wow.
Which also is determined by the size of the logs going through. If they get on a run of really big red oak, that number could go up by 10 or 15,000 feet, and vice versa. If they get into a run of smaller diameter logs, then that number could go down. Also, it depends on whether or not they have to do a changeover. If they're switching from, say, red oak to hard maple, that requires a little bit of time for that switch over. So
What if they switch from red oak to hard maple? Do they change the blades on the mill, or can they run the same?
I think they change the blades about 4 times a day
Per shift. Okay.
I'll have to check on that though. I'm not a mill guy. I'm a log guy.
My next question for Chris is, what is a concentration yard? Now, the mills are in New York State, and we're in Pennsylvania. So the nearest mill is probably, 75, 100 miles?
It's 100 miles.
100 miles. Okay, so what is a concentration doing here?
Okay, so the concentration yards, basically, this particular one, what we were running into is we send a lot of cants into central PA. And what was happening was we would have anywhere from 4 to 10 tractor trailer loads a day going into central PA with basically nothing to come back with. So we were trying to coordinate putting them together with a log buyer, trying to get them loaded on landings, finding something for them to come back instead of them having to come back empty every time. So we had kind of played around with a couple of different locations where we could store logs and then have the tractor trailers come and meet a picker truck there and load them, so they weren't going back empty every time. We were lucky we came across this piece of property, and we ended up buying this facility in 2020, in January 2020. We rented it prior to that. And then what we started doing was, we have a log buyer or log buyers in the area, and instead of those logs sitting on a landing where we couldn't access them with a tractor trailer, we started forwarding them here so that the tractor trailers could just come here to get loaded. That was really the main purpose. What ended up happening is we became a local company here, and it allowed us to start what we call a direct ship program. And a direct ship program is different from a log buyer coming to a landing and buying logs, which is costly for the company because you have a picker truck and a picker driver. You also have a log buyer with a company pickup sitting on a landing for, depending on how many logs are there, could be hours. And with the Gatewood program, it allowed us to kind of give an option to the local loggers. And they could just ship their logs directly to the yard instead of them having to build up loads of logs on a landing. They could just call, get a truck, we bring them here, I scale them, and it keeps their landings cleaned up, and it allows us to save a little bit from having a couple of different pieces of equipment sitting on a landing. So the cost benefit to us, we've tried to pass some of that on to the logger because we don't have that added expense. And it's allowed us to really grow a relationship with some of these loggers for a direct ship program.
My next question for Chris is this, and I'm going to answer it myself from my perspective. The question is, how has Wagner impacted our local logging community? And I've been logging now for 20 years, and I want to say that Wagner Hardwood Company has had the greatest positive impact on our local logging community. They did a lot of things for the logger. They brought an extreme amount of integrity to our local logging system and infrastructure that the loggers relied on. The second thing they did is they were able to take a look at some of the areas that loggers have difficulty with. And one of those areas is often dealing with the local municipalities and state governments meeting the requirements and the ongoing different things that are asked of us. So they've helped us with road bonding, making sure that all the legalities are taken care of there. They've helped us with certain permitting and all this stuff the local logger did in the past, and now it saves us a phenomenal amount of time and helps facilitate Wagner getting the logs and us being able to keep moving. But the main thing to me that this company has brought, and why I have been so fiercely dedicated to selling them my logs, is the respect that they show the logger that I didn't feel with many of the other companies I dealt with, and the integrity ongoing and consistent with the sale of logs. Now, the local logging community, we're all very small logging operations around here representing a multitude of landowners. And one of the things that Wagner's has allowed the logger to do is to take the integrity that they are showing to us and be able to share that with the landowner. One of the things that happens when a log buyer goes to a landing to buy logs is the check is written right there. If it's a percentage check, the landowner gets his check and can be present at the sale of the logs, and the logger gets his check. So we don't have to wait, the landowner doesn't have to wait, and there is no speculation, and everybody can be present. Now, in my relationship with Wagner, I do direct ship. They've shown their integrity over the years, and I have no problems that my logs come directly here. Chris handles the scaling and the grading of those logs, and then the checks are sent back to me. So it becomes a very clean and efficient system. But this is something that this company has done, and I think basically crushed the local competition. I don't know a lot of other loggers going a lot of other places. You know, this is just one solid, fantastic company. So I know I talked on here for quite a while. The question was, how has Wagner impacted our local logging community? And I think Chris can probably weigh in on that. But I wanted to just put my personal experience with this company out there publicly. So
That's a tough one to follow.
I don't know.
So one of the things I think that really helps the local logging situation down here is how fast we can react. When somebody like Ken calls and says, I've got a stream crossing, I need truck mats, I need bridges, I need, something to help him continue logging. We can react pretty fast to that. We can most of the time, depending on the urgency that I hear in his voice, we could pretty much have it there that day, if not the next day. We do a lot of that, transferring bridges, truck mats, anything to help facilitate the logging process. And same thing with loads, like an impeding snowstorm. Maybe a local guy has 2 or 3 loads on his landing and was planning on having a sale on Friday, but we're supposed to get, 24 inches of snow the night before. A lot of times they'll call and say, hey, I've got these loads. Is there any way we can get them to the yard? And I've got 5 picker trucks here, a group of super, super good guys, and they'll make it happen. The other thing I try to do here, if it's within my power, I do everything here locally. If I need a broom, if I need something for the facility, because basically I am the log buyer, the scaler, the dispatcher, but I'm also the janitor, I take care of the facility. So I shop locally right here in town. My electrician lives right here locally. The guy who does any kind of contracting work we need done here is local. Even the people that bring the propane are right down the road, and as well as the garbage dumpster. They are all local people. And that's one thing that I'm pretty big on. I want to keep it right here. I want to be a useful member. I want Wagner's to be a member of the community. So we try to keep everything local. And like Ken went on about the permits and stuff like that, we do try to help. It seems to be harder and harder to log. There's a lot of red tape to go through, and anything we can do, we try to help that process.
It's phenomenal. You've heard the expression log jam. That's what happens when a snowstorm's coming. Loggers don't get paid till the logs go. And it's very, very disheartening to work a week or two with no money coming in, and you have all your logs sitting there, and now a snowstorm's coming, and if they sit on the landing, you don't get paid for them. And Wagner comes in, they get our logs, they get them back to the yard, and then they're able to scale them and write a check. And that has been something, the consistency of the money flow has been something that, as a small business owner, they have really, really helped. One last question. Actually, I have one silly question after this, but one last question. What are your concerns about logging in the logging community?
So I would say one of the biggest concerns, and we talk about it a lot, is how do I put this? The age of our loggers. We don't see a lot of young people looking to get into logging, which is concerning, because at some point the loggers that we have are going to retire and be done with it, and that's a main concern. It really is. Probably another concern would be legislature. Local governments, they seem to make it harder and harder for people like Ken to do their job. And I gotta say, the loggers that we deal with are really some of the best in the industry. They work, they do nice work in the woods, and that's important to landowners, and they're fair. And so those are two big concerns. Hopefully that'll work itself out.
Chris said he's concerned about the age of the logging community. And I'm 53, and it's my understanding that at 53 years old, I am the average age of a local logger. That's pretty scary. You think about it, how many people in their 60s or 70s are able to keep crawling up and down those hills with a 17-pound chainsaw? That is a concern. I wasn't thinking about that, but I was told that I am average age out there, or close to it. Last question: are you allowed to share the some of the nicknames of the drivers?
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah.
I know we have a Scooby because I'm friends with him on Facebook.
Yeah, we got a Scooby.
We Bucket.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
We have Load 'em all Paul.
Load 'em all Paul.
Yeah.
Paul has a couple nicknames. I think that's the
Yeah,
safe one,
we'll
right?
keep we'll keep the risky ones out. Jeremy Zipper. I don't think Logan, we've gotten a nickname for him yet, but he's still new, so I'm sure we'll probably come up with one for him. But yeah, I mean, the group of drivers that we have in general is phenomenal. I mean, we have a really, really good group of guys that really like their job. That's important. You know, you get to see some of the most beautiful scenery. You're not running highways all day long, and it can be challenging. It can be very challenging when it's 0 degrees and the wind chill's -10 and you're 13 feet in the air sitting on a picker truck. It gets cold, and you know, like Ken said, we put them trucks in some positions that you probably, or some spots you probably wouldn't normally put a vehicle. But you know, we're getting upwards of 60 trucks, half of them being picker trucks, or I think a little bit more than half.
Wow.
And you know, each facility has their own little fleet, but combined, you know, it's nothing to have, you know, some of my trucks up in Owego, some of Owego's trucks down here, Belmont trucks in Cayuta, and vice versa. You know, they're well traveled. So yeah, the trucking fleet and the guys, they are a huge part of what we do and what we're able to do. So
I've talked before in a previous video that it's really hard to see the grade of the terrain that we're on in our area. We don't have a lot of rock, but the hills or the mountains are very steep. And there are numerous times, especially over the winter months, I haven't done it this year, but last year we would tow trucks in with the skidders and then sometimes lower trucks back out. So it is absolutely phenomenal where these guys will go and to what lengths they will go to see that the logs keep moving in really any condition. And that, I'm just, like I said, I'm so proud to be affiliated with this company. I am independent, but very happy to be part of this ongoing team with this group of people. They're exceptional.
I've only seen that on TV. I didn't know. Oh, look at that turtle.
Oh, listen, I'm quiet about it.
If you made it till the end, thanks for watching. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and I'll see you next time.